but they don't believe this one, but they do believe the suspect is armed. So that really changes the dynamic in a situation like this. We're in a residential area now, extremely dangerous at these speeds. I don't know if we get sky map up. The angle may not be exact, but we've seen speeds at least 60 miles an hour in an area that's probably, look how close it was to that individual walking, maybe pushing a stroller there, it looked like, on that street. Speeds well above 60 miles an hour through residential neighborhoods, not looking, turning in front of other vehicles, and now back on Van Owen. So, boy, we're following what is turning out to be an extremely dangerous pursuit. Pursuits like this, unfortunately, and a lot of times cause harm and significant injuries to other individuals besides just the suspect. We're back on a street we were on just a moment ago on Archwood now, and the suspect is sort of swerving in and out of this neighborhood in Van Nuys off of Van Owen and basically Van Nuys Boulevard. LAPD has units surrounding this area, but they have not put units right behind the vehicle. I believe the strategy at this point in time is not to get behind the suspect and make him drive more erratically. They have the helicopter overhead. But if the suspect does stay in the same area, a spike strip may be used. They may be able to get officers in position. If he goes back into situations or areas where he's been before, they may be able to deploy that tactic. We'll have to see. But right now they're in tracking mode. And, you know, we hate to see this. Kids are out for summer. It's that time of the morning. Coming up on 10 o'clock where kids can be out riding their bike, and boy, something like this could be tragic. Somebody could be critically injured or killed very easily with that SUV traveling at these speeds. We've seen well over 60 miles an hour right through residential areas, and you can tell just by watching here the suspect is very erratic, but staying in the same area. Why that would be, you know, it's unclear. Suspect could live in this area. We just don't know. It's hard to guess those types of situations, complete speculation there. But certainly the suspect is desperate to get away and is willing to drive erratically and dangerously at high rates of speed. But he has been staying in this one area in Van Nuys, basically off of Van Owen and Kester, right next to the hospital here. I think he just crossed once again back on Van Owen. We've seen this 3 or 4 times. The pursuit's been going on for about 20 minutes or so, we believe. Exactly how they identified this suspect as a stolen vehicle suspect in this car is unclear, if they were tracking him possibly, or if they just got a call. But we don't believe that vehicle is stolen. That's the initial information that we have. Now, that can change lots of times, but the initial information that we have, they believe it's a stolen vehicle suspect. Suspect stole another vehicle, not this one, but the suspect they believe may be armed. So extremely dangerous type of situation right now to the community here in Van Nuys with the erratic driving and the speeds the suspect has been driving at. Hey, Marcel, did you bring a water? I forgot mine. So we are continuing to follow a high-speed pursuit in the Van Nuys area. That vehicle you see right there didn't come back stolen, but it came back as the suspect driving it, being a stolen vehicle suspect. And boy, it looked pretty erratic in there to me. Did you see that, Marcel? Looks like the suspect was trying to peek out up through the window to see if he could see the helicopter. Now, the LAPD helicopter is overhead. It looks like they've gone on surveillance mode as far as the tracking of him or the suspect on the ground is concerned, and they're just doing it from the air. So with that LAPD helicopter way below us, the suspect may have been trying to get a look at the LAPD helicopter to see if he was still being followed. Certainly it's extremely difficult, if not impossible, to get away from the helicopter, especially on a clear day. Sometimes it's foggy and we can't fly, that can happen. But the weather conditions are fine today, and in this area we can continue to fly, even though if it goes further east, we can have some airspace restrictions with Burbank Airport and some of their scheduled flights into and out of Burbank. Right now, we're back on Kittredge, headed westbound, back towards the 405, if you will, if it goes on for a long period of time. But the suspect certainly staying in this one area. It wouldn't surprise me if we start seeing LAPD units on some of the corners. And you can see how dangerous that is We had a lot of people on the curb there. We had the suspect traveling in probably what's posted as a 35-mile-an-hour speed zone, well above 60 miles an hour. And boy, somebody comes out riding their bike into the street, gets hit by this vehicle. They could very easily be killed. And I think that's one of the reasons they're not right behind the suspect. They don't have patrol cars right behind this individual. It's because they can see him from the air. They have the helicopter overhead, and they really don't want to do anything at this hour and in this area, in this community, to push the suspect to drive even more erratically and make this pursuit even more dangerous. It looks like the
I'm Colleen Sullivan, live in the ABC 7 studio. Happening right now, 2 people are dead after they were shot inside an upscale home in Encino. We are there live. Plus some mild summer temperatures, what you can expect for the middle of the work week. And Emmy nominations, they are out. See if your favorite show got the nod. Remember, when news breaks, find it on the ABC 7 Los Angeles app and join us for Eyewitness News at 11 a.m.
have time to get out of their vehicles and let the vehicle do the blocking, not a vehicle with an officer inside. So boy, look at that, right into oncoming traffic, making that turn, swerving in front of oncoming traffic. And we're seeing more and more patrol cars in this area. Back on Van Owen, we followed this on Van Owen 6 or 7 times now. There you just saw the LAPD helicopter fly through the screen. It wouldn't surprise me, as I mentioned earlier, they're going to start to set up officers in these street corners, and they're going to throw out a spike strip. That's the way they're probably going to try and stop this. I don't believe the suspect's been driving in a manner in which they could, even if they got behind him, they could do the pit maneuver, because in situations like this, you have to make sure it's 30 miles an hour or below. I believe that's the policy for the LAPD. And you also have to make sure if you do that, you're not in an area that the vehicle could jump up onto a curb and hurt someone. So at this point in time, though, that could be one of the strategies they will use. Try and get officers in some of these street corners and then have them hide behind another vehicle or a tree, and as the vehicle comes out around the corner, throw out the spike strip and see if you can't get a couple of flats. So right now, once again, if you didn't hear me earlier, it's a stolen vehicle suspect. Not a stolen vehicle, but the suspect wanted has stolen another vehicle, and they do believe that suspect is armed. So that really does ratchet things up quite a bit when you've got an individual they believe is armed. But boy, they are right behind them now into oncoming traffic, into this intersection. Fortunately, it was a green, making a left turn, now on Kester once again with an LAPD patrol car right behind, going into an alleyway. This is Archwood, and there are several vehicles in the same area. It may come up on more LAPD officers down this street. Their radio calls go out. They know exactly where he's at. There must be 30 or 40 patrol cars in this area already, as well as a helicopter overhead. But these are the things that are so dangerous. We're in a residential neighborhood. You just sort of quiver, you know, if there's a child riding a bike or playing out in this area, they could be struck or killed. They are right behind them, though. They're not backing off with a patrol car on the ground. We're back on Van Owen, and the suspect appears to just be going around in circles now in this area. No rhyme or reason to where he's headed. He looks pretty indecisive coming up on some of these intersections, but willing to put himself in harm's way and others into oncoming traffic, and even running red lights at times. We've got a couple of close calls, but I have not seen that the vehicle has struck any other cars. Copy that. All right, copy. Great job so far. Very good. Thank you. Yeah, I know it's not easy. What's the speed on that, huh? Okay. You're gonna have to slow down for that. You got a speed tracker? Yeah, there's no question about that. The suspect is extremely desperate, trying to get away at all costs, even driving into oncoming traffic, backing up into officers, and almost ramming a patrol car to get away when he drove down a cul-de-sac. We've seen speeds as high as 80 miles an hour on some of the surface streets, and the suspect has been in basically the same area for the last 20 or 30 minutes or so, turning off of Van Owen onto Kester, made that turn maybe 6 or 7 times since we've been following it. Now, LAPD did have a patrol car right behind. We understand they did approve the pit maneuver, but for that to happen, the suspect's going to have to be in an area where the vehicle is really slowed down. You can't do the pit maneuver, hit the vehicle from behind when the suspect's traveling at speeds 60, 70, 80 miles an hour. I believe the limit's around 30. And we do see now that the LAPD patrol cars that were right behind this vehicle earlier, Colleen, they have pulled off. Now, they have an LAPD helicopter overhead. It's interesting that the suspect has been staying in the same area, probably a 10-block radius here in the Van Nuys area this entire time. That allows LAPD officers to deploy, and it wouldn't surprise me if they try a spike strip soon. We understand the original want on this suspect is that this individual, a man, is wanted for stealing a vehicle, but not this one. We believe there are Idaho plates on this car. They also believe that the suspect is armed. So it really does change the dynamic when you have all those criteria, and then you have a suspect so desperate to get away that they're driving as fast as 80 miles an hour in probably a posted 30-mile-an-hour zone.
Police. Again, we did see the LAPD so close behind this driver, but then it does appear that they have backed off. And you can see why, Scott, because the LAPD, they really have to answer if somebody does get hurt in this pursuit. But again, if they think that this person is armed and dangerous, they certainly cannot let this person go.
Yeah, it's sort of a catch-22, Colleen. It really is. You want to be right behind him with a patrol car, just in case the suspect, in this case, we understand there's a victim of some sort who's at the hospital. I don't quite know the dynamic there, but there's a victim, we understand, at the hospital. We don't know their condition. But in a situation like this, they'd love to have a patrol car right behind this vehicle. They believe this individual is armed so that if the individual does foot bail, get out and run, at least they can surround him immediately with officers, set up a perimeter, and try and get him into custody. In a situation like this, when the suspect's driving this erratically, it's very difficult because the closer they get behind the suspect with the patrol cars, the more erratic the suspect drives. Already driving extremely dangerously into oncoming traffic, almost ramming a patrol car, going up onto curbs, backing up into traffic, those types of things. And so they've backed off for the moment. As you mentioned, and I mentioned earlier, it's just that time of day with summer and kids out a little after 10. You have a lot of people out on these streets, and so it just makes it that much more dangerous, that much more chilling. You know, we've seen so many of these types of incidences just like this, and people have gotten hurt or killed. We're on Heartland now. It looks to me, I'm not sure if this is a cul-de-sac as well. No, it looks like there's a turn before that. So one thing, Colleen, because the suspect has stayed in this general vicinity, I believe they may be able to get a lot of officers in some of these intersections and maybe throw out a spike strip. At least that would slow the driver down, slow the suspect down. Yeah,
but it's so hard to predict. Even despite this person being in the same vicinity, as you just said, it's very hard to predict which turns they're going to make because they're driving in all these different neighborhoods. It's not as though they're doing a square. They're taking, you know, Kester is one of those busy streets. Of course, I think about the schools in this area, and I think about how lucky a lot of these parents have already dropped their kids off to summer school. Look at passing right in front of that fire engine. But again, this driver is taking extreme risks, going through intersections, disregarding any rules of the road here right now, going on the opposite side. It makes me very concerned. The only saving grace in a weird way is that obviously the police helicopters, our helicopters overhead, this community hears there is activity, and many times when you hear activity, you know you need to stay inside. So again, and you never want this person to jump out, bail if they might be armed. Oh, goodness gracious. See, this person takes such extreme risks just to get away. Again, you don't want them to necessarily do a foot bail either, Scott, because you don't want them running through a neighborhood if they are armed.
Yeah, there's no question about that, although I think more than likely they prefer the suspect out of that vehicle because there's just so much danger at these types of speeds around this area, you know, crosswalk traffic, driving so erratically, although, as you mentioned, you don't want someone, if he does have a weapon, out in a neighborhood in a perimeter with that gun. But in this situation, I mean, everybody in this area is at risk. People walking on the sidewalk, people driving their cars. As I mentioned, though, I've seen the turn from Van Owen to Kester maybe 6 or 7 times.
Yeah.
And that's what believes me to think if the suspect continues in that area, on those streets, eventually they could try a spike strip. I know they did approve the pit maneuver, but it's extremely difficult to do a pit maneuver when the suspect is driving at this rate of speed, excuse me, and when there's so much traffic around.
Exactly.
You know, you can't really do a pit maneuver when you have opposite direction traffic. If the vehicle spins around and goes into traffic, then it's sort of tough. It's like the LAPD sort of, in a way, almost caused the accident. So they don't want to do that, and the suspect isn't going slow. If you go around a corner at 15 miles an hour, you can do a great pit maneuver, right? You hit the back of the vehicle and it spins out. If you're going around a corner at 40, it just doesn't work. It really doesn't work. It's just too dangerous. But you can tell people are just getting out of this individual's way. We're back on Hart Street. We've been on Hart Street probably 5 or 6 times as well. So staying in this one area.
And I think about these speed bumps, these people who, you know, these residents, they fight for people to slow down, not drive fast in their neighborhoods. Anybody knows when they've tried to get a speed bump approved for their neighborhood, it takes a lot of work. So it's helping them with this driver, at least slowing down this driver's speed. And again, it's very hard to figure out. We are still getting details. So it's sort of a drip, drip, drip of details that we get in. But of course, we know this is someone who has stolen a vehicle, not necessarily this vehicle, Scott. So that's where the confusion might be happening. Is this their vehicle with out-of-state license plates? Who is the victim? What led up to the person stealing a car and this victim in the hospital? There's quite a few pieces to this puzzle that we're trying to answer ourselves.
Yeah, there's a lot of details we don't have. We're piecing it together as best we can. We have seen from time to time, though, that the suspect appears to be agitated, really moving around a lot inside the vehicle, looking up for a moment, trying to see the LAPD helicopter. We saw that on multiple occasions. We're back off of Van Owen onto Cedros now, back through this residential area. But they do have the LAPD helicopter overhead. The suspect's not going to get away, but you know, this is just so dangerous, and the speeds at which the suspect is traveling just sort of, you know, exemplifies that. It's just really scary to see this out on these roadways. There was a point where it was almost over. The suspect went down a street into a cul-de-sac. There was 3 or 4 patrol cars that were getting set up to box the suspect in, but really they don't want to get right in front of them. They don't want to get rammed, and they didn't have time to box them in and then get out of their vehicles. If they had, they could have pinned them in that cul-de-sac. But right now, what you're seeing is the suspect is traveling to the same neighborhood in Van Nuys, still erratically at high speeds. Now, we don't really have much on the information about the victim.
Right.
We have a report of a victim, and then we have sort of the pieces, as you mentioned, but we don't know. We know the victim is at the hospital. So, cannot clarify? All right, so I'm talking to Jay there, Colleen, and he's giving me some information he picks up. I guess maybe even the LAPD doesn't have the whole story yet. So these things are extremely dynamic. We don't know about the victim, but they're at the hospital, so obviously they were injured. We believe only one person inside that vehicle, from what we've been able to tell, just the driver. But you never know, Colleen.
Right.
You know, there could be somebody in the back seat. They could have kidnapped someone. I mean, that's what makes police work so difficult.
Ooh,
Boy,
right
look at
here.
this.
Look at that.
Yeah.
And you're talking about those tinted windows, Scott. I've said it. Ooh, look at this. This person is trying to get away. There's obviously a reason. When someone is taking such extreme risks, there's a reason they do not want to be pulled over. But again, you're just talking about those tinted windows. I actually was pulled over years ago because my windows were too tinted on my car, and I thought, now I see why. There's no really routine traffic stop. And when a police officer or a law enforcement official cannot see inside the vehicle, they're putting their lives at risk each time they're pulling over someone for what would seem like a routine traffic stop. So again, we can't see anybody inside the back seat or in the hatchback part of this car, but we can see that the driver's passenger seat, that seems to be empty. And we did see the driver fidgeting around, driving erratically, and not only fidgeting around, not completely keeping their both hands on the steering wheel. So This person wants to get away. There's no doubt about it. How the police will handle this, because it's such a heavily populated residential area. And, you know, it's kind of incredible that that driver picked the one street that's a cul-de-sac, because you and I know these neighborhoods. There are so many through streets to get to these main thoroughfares in Van Nuys, because it's also a bustling business sort of city as well.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, there's industry in here. There's a lot of residential. I mean, that's what makes it so dynamic, if you will. And we've seen a technique or a strategy by the police a couple different times to get a patrol car right up behind the suspect. So obviously they're watching this. They watch our feeds. They watch the feed that they get from their own helicopter. They hear the radio calls. They get all the information. And they have to decide, a supervisor has to decide, hey, you know, go ahead and get on this guy. Or they have to decide, no, just let the helicopter track them. And at least for now, it looks like they're just allowing the helicopter to track them. What's interesting is, though, even when the patrol cars were right behind the suspect drove in the same manner. It didn't appear that when the patrol cars backed off, the suspect slowed down or didn't start going into oncoming traffic. He kept that same demeanor, if you will. He kept driving the same. So that will also have an impact on their decision if they would prefer to be right behind the suspect. And if it turns out that being behind him doesn't change his style of driving, they may go back into that mode where they put patrol cars right behind the suspect. But at this point in time, they backed off and just the helicopter is falling overhead.
Yeah, well, we were just showing some video on your right side of the screen. We're showing earlier when that suspect ended up going down that cul-de-sac on Heartland and Beavis. And you know, this person really, I'm pretty amazed that they did not give up then, because there was a line of police cars and they then went right beside them and just went right past them, disregarding that they were so close. I mean, it looked like if one rolled out their window, they could have just touched the police cruiser. But again, we're watching some video of that moment where if only police could have put a spike strip down at that one spot, because again, this person clearly must know this area. Why they don't want to give up or find a house that they know and go inside, I can't figure that part out, because they really are just driving in squares.
Yeah, I mean, who knows, right? There's no rhyme or reason, no sense that we could ever make of these things. Can't get in the mind of that suspect.
No.
But at this point in time, I really believe the spike strip is going to happen soon, because I've seen the suspect make the turn from Van Nuys to Kester 7 or 8 times. So they can count on the fact that the suspect is going to come back to that same area. And if they can throw out a spike strip and get the tires flat, they can really reduce the risk of danger to the public, because you just won't see these types of speeds. From time to time, we see speeds up to 80 miles an hour. There you go, patrol car right behind them, open up a little bit. Now, there's what we talked about, Colleen, a change in strategy. Now, all of a sudden, LAPD's decided to put patrol cars behind the suspect. We'll see how long this lasts. We know they've been approved for the pit maneuver, but there are conditions, there are restrictions, if you will, in using that. They have to make sure the area is clear. They have to make sure it's under a certain speed, so the vehicle does just spin around and not flip around. Usually they want to do it when the vehicle, if it's around a corner, it's much easier to make that happen. And we lost the suspect for just a moment. There we go. There is once again. Went by that apartment building, and now we're back on Vesper. We've been on Vesper and Hart multiple times as well. So it's about a 5 or 6 block radius where the suspect has been driving. And boy, close to that vehicle as well. It gives you an idea how dangerous it is.
No, it is very nerve-wracking for these drivers who they're minding their own business, and then you suddenly see this car driving on the wrong side of the road, trying to get around people who are just driving in their neighborhoods, trying to get to their business. And you can see this driver is driving at such excessive speeds and really putting the community, you see it right there, now going in oncoming traffic, going around these cars. Oh, again, I know each time I'm almost holding my breath, because again, look at this. Oh my goodness.
Almost had no place to go on that one.
Right. It's got, again, you cover pursuits, we cover pursuits, every day. They're all different, but this person seems to only want to stay in this one small radius. Yeah,
that's what has happened. I mean, for the most part, it's been in this one area. And Yep, I don't know why. I mean, they don't have officers at these corners. Like, we're back on Kester and Sherman Way. So hopefully they can get them deployed into some of these areas and throw out the spike strip, because that really is going to be helpful in slowing this down and reducing the danger to the public in this area. It's interesting, Colleen, to see them, get the patrol cars behind them for a moment and then back off. I mean, it's got to be difficult for the LAPD, because it's almost like a no-win situation. People are watching this and they're saying, wow, this is dangerous. And it is. There's no question. And they're saying, can't they do something about this to stop it? And as they try to do something to stop it, now look right here. We're at he's desperate to get away. We're at a red light. We've seen this before, backing up and then going into the parking lot to try and get around. The second time something like this has happened.
Yeah, has he, came incredibly close to hitting that car when he was in reverse. But have we seen this driver clip any cars? Because as of right now, I haven't seen a true smash, but it's so close that it seems like he's come within inches of hitting a car.
Yeah, it appears to be the case. Very, very close. We haven't seen any damage to the vehicle. We haven't seen the vehicle struck another car, but that's almost incredible that this individual hasn't. It's almost like they have been lucky. But back to my point, you're watching and you say, can't they do something to stop this because it's so dangerous? And as the LAPD tries to move in and do something to stop it, and sometimes they make it even more dangerous. And so that's sort of the toss-up, and that's what makes it so difficult for law enforcement when they do have a pursuit like this, trying to figure out exactly how to proceed, especially in this day and age where if anybody is hurt, even a minor injury, if they can pin it on law enforcement, they're going to do that. If we say law enforcement was active in making this happen, then you're looking at a big liability. So they have to take all those types of situations into account. But we're back on Van Owen, and wouldn't surprise me that the suspect's going to turn on Kester here again in a moment. That has been the pattern for like 40 minutes now, just staying in this one area.
Yeah, and you are illustrating all the scenarios that are happening within the LAPD. They do have a watch commander who's trying to monitor this, and they're trying to keep they're trying to pull this person over because they are a danger to the public. And it is very scary. At some point you think, okay, if you call it off, but what if this person is armed? What if they do have a rifle in that car? They're certainly not going to be doing anything right now, being that they're being followed. So it is such a stressful situation for a watch. Wow, they just get so close, and they just take such extreme risks.
Somebody should reach out to the LAPD and say, put someone at Kester and Van Owen and someone at Kester and Sherman Way and throw out a spike strip, because it's been going on 40 minutes now, and this guy has driven through that intersection 8, 9 times.
No.
So it's worth a shot, right? I mean, maybe they're not seeing what we're seeing. I'm not sure. There's a lot of chaos going on when the helicopter is making calls on the radio to alert all the other vehicles down there, the LAPD vehicles, the patrol cars, where the suspect's going, where to go, where they should head, where he's headed. But if he follows the same pattern, we're going to be back to Kester and Sherman Way again. We've seen it. Like I said, 7 or 8 times. It'd be a great place to throw out a spike strip and at least slow this vehicle down and reduce the risk of someone getting hurt.
Right, and I don't see the LAPD cruisers. Wow.
They backed off again. It's another thing we see, Colleen, from time to time. If a suspect stays in one area during a pursuit, what we're going to start to see is people coming out to watch. Just a moment ago, there was 5 or 6 individuals on the side, and they were waving at him when he drove by. Oh. And what happens, it gets out on social media, everybody starts to hear about it, and then you get people coming out on these streets just to take a look. We're at Vesper and Van Owen. We've been on that intersection several times, but it wouldn't surprise me if we start seeing more of that as this pursuit continues to go on in this one area. Word will get out and people will come out to see.
I just can't get over it, how fast this driver is driving in these residential neighborhoods. Because again, I'm glad to see those humps. We're looking at some video on the right side from earlier, and you can see that this driver finds themselves in peril. And then they need to get out of the situation. So you're looking on the left-hand side, you're seeing them taking speed bumps to slow down their rate of speed.
Colleen.
But then on the right, yes, Scott.
We got some new information. Now we understand an armed kidnapping suspect. So it looks like this individual has kidnapped someone, possibly the victim that we know is at the hospital. So that just sort of, not just a stolen vehicle suspect. I mean, that's one thing, right? We have a victim has hurt somebody. and they've kidnapped somebody. So they're not going to back off on this one. They're
No.
going to stay on this individual. I don't know that they'll put patrol cars right behind him, but this is an individual they want to get off the street. Not only off just pursuit, but I mean off the street, because he's looking at quite a few major charges and a lot of jail time.
No kidding. And again, with
In
those
oncoming traffic.
in oncoming traffic, we know that there's persons desperate to get away. The windows are extremely tinted in the back and on the hatchback. We don't know if there is a victim or anybody else inside this vehicle. We don't know. Again, there are so many puzzle pieces here that we're trying to figure out how it all fits together. We don't know the kidnapping part, if that is the person who's in the hospital recovering. We don't know even what kind of injuries that person. We don't know if there's anybody in the car. So again, now when we keep saying it's sort of like a faucet with a little drip. We keep getting drip with new information because the police department is so busy trying to catch this driver. So the media doesn't get as much information. But again, now that we know that this is possibly an armed suspect who has been involved in a kidnapping, they're definitely not going to let this suspect go. They are going to stay on it.
Back into oncoming traffic. We're going to have a crash here, Colleen. What's happened in the last couple of minutes? What's happened in the last couple of moments, from what I can tell, is this suspect doesn't care about driving into oncoming traffic. You're driving into oncoming traffic without looking, going around some of the corners into oncoming traffic without really looking. And in a situation like that, I didn't really see that in his demeanor before, just what I've seen in the last 5 minutes or so, maybe less, but more erratic and not really caring about going into oncoming traffic. We almost had what appeared to be a head-on collision, and he was just lucky that he didn't slam into that person, because he made a turn, a tight left turn into oncoming traffic, and could not have seen that vehicle. It was just lucky it didn't slam into it. So we didn't think it would get worse, but it sort of has in the last couple of minutes, and that may change LAPD's procedure as well. They may get some patrol cars behind this. Stop now, and it looks like he may make a run for it. No, the suspect is backing up. I wouldn't know why. The patrol car's in front of him, patrol car right behind him.
What?
Now he's going backwards, pulling into a driveway, and then now getting away. What's down the street there, Marcel? Open up a little bit.
That's what I was going to say. Are there police at the end?
I don't see any patrol cars in front.
No.
Yeah, I really believe, Colleen, because what we saw in the last 3 or 4 minutes with the suspect not looking and driving into oncoming traffic, I think they just figured, see people out on the street, they know it's in this area. I think what they decided is we've got to be behind him, because it's not like when we're behind him, we're encouraging him to drive more erratically. It's almost like he's trying to hurt someone on purpose. He's going into oncoming traffic without looking on some of these street corners and on some of these turns. And look at the speed, too. If you have a head-on here, somebody can die very quickly. The speeds are 60, 70 miles an hour. We're back on Cedros. We've been on Cedros 8 or 9 times as well. We were just on Kester again a moment ago, and we do understand that they're in the process of getting out some spike strips, so hopefully that will happen, and we'll get this thing slowed down, because right now, I mean, this is treacherous. This is frightening. It really is. It
really is frightening, and again, how you can be one step ahead of this driver. Yes, they do seem to be taking the same streets in this area, but not exactly the same. So you put a spike strip down on one street, and they're going to take a different one. But we do see that, Van Owen, Vesper, we've seen Tobias. We've seen so many of the same streets where this driver feels very comfortable with the knowledge of this area. But again, I'm amazed that we're not seeing people out. I really am, Scott. I mean, we did.
We had a few people out right there. We got a person on the corner. They're trying to get some footage of it. They're shooting it with their phone. We're going to see more and more of this. We're on Van Owen. I bet you Nickel makes a right turn on Kester here in a moment. We'll see what happens. It could be wrong. But it's happened so many times into oncoming traffic. But there was one turn that was absolutely frightening. He made a left turn without seeing what was coming his way into oncoming traffic, and was just fortunate he did not head on with that individual. We understand there's a little more information. The LAPD is not. Oh, he turned on to Kester off Van Owen. Wow. There's information that they're not giving us, but they have more background information. So that may be to protect someone who knows. We've got a erratic turn there onto this surface street on Archwood. And certainly, Colleen, we hate to see this. It's just so dangerous. We just hope that nobody gets hurt.
I know, and I just keep thinking about, I have so many friends who live in these neighborhoods as well. There are so many homes here, and these are family neighborhoods, so I just keep worrying.
Somebody threw something at him.
Yeah.
Somebody threw a chair at him.
Yes. And it didn't
so there's
look
somebody who wants to end this.
No kidding.
My goodness.
It's going to up the cadence again. What is?
And there's a patrol car right behind him, and now he's slowed a little bit. I'm not certain if that scared him, but that appeared to be just some random individual chucking a chair at the vehicle. Now look, you've got people out in the roadway. I mean, does that individual, they must know them, right? I mean, you wouldn't get out there into the street like that if maybe you weren't somehow affiliated with that individual. I mean, I'd see on the curb maybe, but to get out into that lane, at least for now, the suspect has slowed. The 3 or 4 patrol cars behind him. And this is going to give LAPD some time, actually, to deploy officers to the front as well, just in case. Hold it right here, hold it, just in case it continues on. But it looks like, at least right now, the suspect is exiting the vehicle. They're going to want him to get down on the ground, maybe throw out the keys. They want to clear that vehicle. They want the suspect in custody first, and they want to make sure he does not have an opportunity to get back in that vehicle and drive away, because that means the danger will be over. So there he is. It looks like he's complying. His hands are up. More than likely, he'll be told to turn around and back up towards officers. There you go. Hands on the head. A lot of times I ask them to pull up the shirt so they can check the waistband to see if he has a weapon. But right now they're content to just have him back up. They're always concerned that there may be someone else inside the vehicle, so they don't rush the individual quite yet. They want to get that suspect in custody, get him face down on the pavement, move in where they think it's safe for them to move in, and then they can clear the vehicle. But fortunately, Colleen, it looks like the danger is over. This had the potential to hurt or kill someone, and from what we can tell, it's ending without incident. We don't believe the suspect hit anyone, although we do believe that suspect kidnapped someone, and that individual may have been injured because we do understand there's a victim. We don't know all the details at the hospital.
Yeah, and you can clearly see the suspect is doing what the officers are telling him to do right now, laying straight down. Again, this is still scary. It's never routine. They think that the person might be armed. At this point, hopefully that person is not armed, doesn't do anything to, scare the officers here. But you see, this is just not wise to come out and take video of this. You just never know what could happen, and you're this close to a situation. I just look at that person with their phone, and I think that this is not the right place.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it's just
they're in the line of fire. If this turned into a gun battle with someone inside that vehicle, they're in the line of fire.
Exactly.
It was really interesting, Colleen, someone threw a chair at that vehicle, and after that he came around the corner and slowed down, and then there was a woman in the lane.
In the middle.
And it looks like more than likely she may have known him because she was trying to get him to stop and give himself up. That's what it looked like.
Right, and it does make you think it had to be. I agree with you in the idea that that person may have known this person saying, okay, stop now. Like they're watching, they're hearing the helicopters as well. But it does look like a peaceful surrender right there. It's great.
Nobody hurt.
Again,
we don't know about the victim, but nobody hurt in the pursuit, and that's pretty incredible after so many close calls at such a high rate of speed.
And Scott, we want to take a moment where you can see earlier video, you can see this. This is that moment when you see someone stand behind their gate and they threw that chair. And that sort of stopped, that took that driver out of the trance of keep on driving, boom. And then they turned the corner, and then we're going to see the people standing in the middle of the street where they're trying to stop this driver. But again, there's the chair. There's that person who threw the chair at this driver, and then it kind of stopped. It stopped the flow of the dangerous speed. That it really did seem like it just knocked that driver to get out of the dangerous speed territory. Wouldn't you say, Scott?
Oh, yeah, it was interesting. I'm not certain if that's what did it, but certainly once the chair hit the car, he did slow down, and then there was that woman in the right lane who had appeared to possibly know him, and then he slowed down in moments after that. He gave himself up, but boy, we had so many close calls, Colleen, and you watch these things, and innocent people get hurt and get killed all the time in these pursuits, and this was an extremely dangerous one. So fortunately today what we're seeing is no one in the pursuit was hurt, so thank goodness for that.
No kidding. Again, we're following this. We're going to try to get more details on exactly what happened here. But again, you are watching Eyewitness News right now. We're going to gather more information. We're going to bring you the very latest on Eyewitness News at 11 a.m. Again, I'm Colleen Sullivan along with Scott Reif. We will bring you back to regular programming.
This has been Eyewitness News with breaking news.